Hold on a second, sorry guys. Roll call. Gotta get my names in case I miss somebody. Council at Large, Jason Poshin.
Excuse me. Here.
Council Ward number 1, Ron Hembry.
Here.
Ward number 2, Mike Helm.
Here.
Ward number 3, Tim McNeil.
Here.
Okay, pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Agenda additions or we'll take a motion to approve. Did we have an addition?
Pam Bisbee will not be here in the communication.
Oh, okay. So we will remove the person under communications. Other than that, if not, I will take a motion to approve.
Motion.
Okay, Mike with the, or Helm with the first question.
Helm,
Yes.
Poston,
Yes.
McNeil, Hembry,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes. Okay, so we'll go to communications. Like I said, Pam Bisbee will not be here, so if anybody else has anything, they can come to the podium.
Bisbee.
No, it doesn't. Okay. All right, so we will move down to the consent agenda. These are routine. I'm not used to using this computer, guys. Sorry. Oh my Lord, I need my mouse. These are routine items and will be enacted by one motion without separate discussion unless a council member requests separate consideration. Number 1, approval of the council meeting minutes, April 17th, 2023. Approval council meeting minutes, May 15th, 2023. Approval special council meeting minutes, May 22nd, 2023. Special council meeting minutes, May 24th, 2023. Approval of the airport minutes, May 17th. Approval of the garbage exemption at 810 West 1st Street, Bob Press. Approval of temporary relocation voucher, housing rehabilitation program, John Lang, 59 Mulberry Street. Approval of a trip reimbursement, Rhonda Taylor, DBA Taylor Tots Child Care for $7,500. Approval of annual Tiger Prowl 5K on June 17th at 6 p.m. Approval of Clifton Larson Allen engagement letter for the audit. Approval of pay application number 2, replace Highway 38 South Street to Iowa 130 triple B construction, $45,173. Approval of cemetery cost increase for grave digging from $500 to $600 and $650 on the weekends. Approval township contracts for EMS and fire services for Cass Township, Center Township, Red Oak Township, Rochester Township, and Springfield Township. And approval of claims register, which includes claims paid under the current purchase policy. If no one has any questions, I will take a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Poston with the first, Helm with the second.
Poston,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move down to city business. Number 1, discussion and possible action concerning update on possible redesign of James Kennedy Family Aquatic Center dehumidifier unit installation. And Dan Strain is on. If do you have anything or?
Well, Dan was asked to look at the option placing the unit on the south, along the south wall of the aquatic center, and he's with us tonight to give an update on what he's found out. So I guess we could turn it over to Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Okay, so after last meeting, we kind of talked about, where we had placed it and why we placed it there. But as Brian mentioned, there's some questions on, well, what would we need to do if we were placing it out on front to the south side of the building? So we looked into a few things. So last time I talked about, there was a short circuit current rating, which was the main reason we were locating it where we did. So if we move it to the front side of the building, we would need a transformer in order to get that rating down. And currently right now, the transformer lead time for that is 60 plus weeks. So that's over a year to even get the transformer on site.
I mean, the transformer, is that with just one person? Or do we check?
That is through Square D, who is the typical main manufacturer of electrical equipment. I will say right now we've had other projects where all electrical transformers, we do a lot of railroad work, all electrical transformers are running in the year plus range right now. So yeah, so it'd be about a 60-week lead time for that. And then also in front of the building, the 8-inch water mains serving the building is running underneath that grass area where would want to locate this unit. The existing drawings don't call for a depth. And so we're not exactly sure, but I would say there's a pretty good chance that the concrete pad for the unit has to go down 4 feet to be below frost level. I'd say there's a pretty good chance it's going to conflict with that 8-inch water main. So chances are you're going to have to reroute that water main. And as you're rerouting that, the heat pump piping is next to that underneath the parking lot. So you're probably going to have to redo the heat pump loop piping as well. So there'll be some utilities that have to be moved. And then, when we were around back, so this unit produces condensate, like from an air conditioner. And that'll be through all year round. We were going to route a pipe to the manhole to the west. That's already there. So in the front, we'll have to put in like a sump so we can have that condensate go to the sump, and then we'll have to pipe it back up into the building somewhere. So rough estimate with, we're adding all this stuff in, but we're losing some stuff. We're losing some piping. We're losing the big feeder all the way around the building. So a rough estimate for moving it to the front side of the building on the south side would be an additional 30 to 40, 45,000. However, I see it as the main priority, as the main problem with this is there's a 60-week lead time on that transformer. And so the unit would not be able to be operated until that transformer is there and installed. Oh, sorry, I skipped a note too. Also, on that front side of that building, so I'm measuring off of the existing drawings and also measuring off of Google. But chances are the unit with the clearance space required for the unit from the back, the unit width itself, and then clearance space on the front. And if we're going to add a fence around it, we'll be impeding on that sidewalk. And so you'll likely have to if we're impeding on that sidewalk, we see that as a hazard. And so you'd likely have to lose a couple parking spots and repave sidewalk further out than what it is. So that's included in that cost too. So that's kind of the transformer. Utilities need to be moved. New sidewalk needs to be added for that additional cost.
So that would be on top of the estimate from last time.
Correct.
And the estimate last time was what again for installation?
I think when we had the unit itself was like 160 something, but including the alternates was around 200,000. And I will say right now it is still pretty difficult to estimate. With costs just increasing, and this one we do have a little bit of a contingency in there since we think there's going to be a little bit higher charge for this one since they're not going to have the markup on the unit itself since the unit's already been pre-purchased by a contractor.
And what about redesign to make it work at that different location?
I mean, it wouldn't be anything crazy, but we would require something. I didn't really look into that.
Okay.
Nothing too much.
If you leave it where suggested, how much space are you losing inside that fence for the patrons?
So it's all in that grass area, and it. Am I able to share my screen? Would you guys be able to see that?
You know how to do that?
I can. Plug in.
I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. So the unit itself is basically 10 by 32, 10 by 33. So we'd be losing that plus the clearance space around it for the fence. If you can picture, there's 3 different grass sections out back. That middle grass section, we'd basically be losing that whole area for the unit. How we laid it out. Now, there was a question too. We can rotate that horizontally. We don't like it as much for the duct connections, but we can rotate that horizontally so you can still have some of that grass area, and we can make that work too. And that's not a huge deal. We just liked it better the way it currently is.
Which is the better design for the system? Out back or out front?
Out back for sure, where we currently have it.
Adam, out back is where he's talking about is literally where everybody parks.
That's when
Am
they
I
say
right?
vertically going north and south. I saw that, and I'm like, well, can we at least go east and west? We have a little bit, but I don't know, we don't know how loud it's gonna be. What Ron said at the last meeting, they have a unit on top of the elementary and at the high school. And the high school, 50 feet high, you can go out in that parking lot, you can hear it coming. But Dan, we've been trying to reach, I think he's reached out and to see how loud that unit is. We don't know. So, sound barriers and stuff like that, and the fence is gonna be around it too, that helps, but I don't know how loud it's gonna be.
We don't know of anybody else in the area that has a unit like this that we can just go listen.
We do. The Innovent Rep Mechanical Sales has a few, and they said that they would be able to take somebody and go listen to it. Also, sorry, Brian. Also to that note, there are a few things we can do to reduce the noise. They have some kind of things they can do on the fans to reduce that. It's just kind of a thing of Innovent said they would to produce this data, so we don't know.
The unit they thought was the most representative is at the downtown Davenport Y. But we weren't, we asked them to give us an idea of what that meant, and we didn't really get an answer back. It was just, the similarity was it was a ground mounted unit. That was the only example they really came up with.
There's a way to quiet it down a little bit though. They have options.
Yeah, there's options. We've talked about putting a fence around there. They do have like big screen walls that they can put, which universities, places with big cooling towers, they use those for sound and looks, And the thing about that would be we could get the unit, we could get this project bid out and installed, and then we could always come back later to put in a screen wall. We're already kind of doing what we can on the exhaust fan where we see it's going to be loud. We're doing an extra turn and adding some more ductwork and insulation because that'll quiet it down a little bit. However, the fans up top, the rep says they do have a few things they can do. I haven't talked to him about pricing or anything on that just because it's kind of an unknown at this point. But there are options that they have.
Kind of got our hands tied because otherwise we'll sit for a year with the setup in the front yard right now. Otherwise,
Let's put a big grass patch on top of it and a ladder, and the kids can go sit on top.
just turn the music up loud.
How many fans are on top of it, Adam? Are there 4?
There's 6.
There's 6. So it'll match the McCoy on the high. pretty close for its pitch.
That's why I know
That's the high
last
school.
meeting you said that, I'm like, yeah, it is, that's how far up, I'm not sure, 40, 50 feet high, I mean, up there, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. It can.
There's nothing around that one, though.
But
That's just
no,
up
yeah,
there, right?
exactly, yeah, there is,
You know, you got your dead wall on the back side, on the west side of it, and that's encapsulated it, but it flows it out and then it drops. But up there at the aquatic center, if it's on both sides of those green spaces, where the patrons are coming in and out during the summer months, if it's rolling,
I don't see
it'll annoy them.
what option do we have
I
right
don't
now?
like it.
None of it's been beneficial expenditures, has it, Mike?
No.
And why does there have to be a transformer for the electrical side of it again, Dan, specifically in relationship to its arc?
So there is a rating called the short circuit current rating, and it is basically the available fault current for that unit. So there's a section in the National Electrical Code about this, that it has to be rated for certain equipment or for certain rating. And basically the easy explanation for that is if there's a ground fault, which chances of that happening is pretty minimal, but if there's a ground fault, that amperage is not rated to where the unit could basically explode. So if we need to have that rating high enough to where that unit would not explode if there's a ground fault. So the transformer brings that amperage down. Also, why we have it located where we do is the length of feeder that would be needed from the mechanical room outside around the whole building brings that amperage down far enough. I have asked the mechanical sales rep if they can change this rating in the field, because there's certain ratings. There's like a 5K, which is what it is ordered with. There's also a 65K rating, which we would have been fine with. So I have asked him, and I followed up with him and haven't heard back, but if they can change those ratings in the field and how much that would be, and I don't have an answer for that. So that would be, that would help where we wouldn't need the transformer, and then it could go out front. So I can stay on him again, but as of right now, we don't know if they can change that in the field or not.
Basically, they would have to change one of the breakers inside the cabinets, and that's the piece that would explode.
Yeah, they'd have to change. I believe it's a disconnect and a breaker or fuse or something else inside of there. And this is all stuff that's tested by them in their factories, and so we're getting the ratings from the manufacturer. So we don't know.
And we already discussed on the end by the mechanical room, right?
Yeah.
And why could we not do it like outside of the mechanical room?
On the west end,
Yes.
because all the pool piping for the outside pools runs over there, and then there's the surge tank for the pools that's over that way. So we wouldn't want that over the surge tank.
But I mean, you can't go further out from that.
Well, the further we go, we'd have longer duct runs, and we'd be hurting the performance of that unit, of the airflow to it. Plus, you're closer. I mean, you're just as close there to the mechanical room is where the electrical is, so you would still have the issue of the transformer and current rating.
And this is probably a really stupid question, but is there such thing as borrowing a transformer for so long or something like that? And is there like a temporary fix for that while you wait?
Not that I'm aware of. Brian was having, I'm sorry, Brian, you're gonna have to tell me, was it John was reaching out to a contact, and he said he hadn't heard back either.
It's not so the transformer I'm talking about isn't stuff that we use. It's a dry type. It's just taken secondary, and it's just taking it to the same secondary. It's just to help protect. So I've got a contact out to Resco where I usually get my transformers, and they have not contacted me yet. I'm working on it today. Something a little bit outside their normal realm too.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions or? So we're looking for a motion tonight, aren't we?
If you can come up with one.
I got nothing.
Do we have
I'm
an
at a loss.
alternative?
I still have a final sense that the community would prefer it out front, even though it's gonna be an additional cost, paying for that transformer. And it'd simplify Adam's maintenance on it too, if we have it out in front of the unit.
Meaning shutting down the pool for 60 weeks.
That's the part that stinks, Abby, flat out.
John and I were just gonna visit, and it seems like that west wall would be the place to put it. Them underground tanks are an issue, but I wonder if we could look into maybe straddling them, raise it up,
Put it on piers?
put it up on piers, straddle those tanks, have a beam going across that'll carry the load, and the guy could still get underneath and go in the manways. Long as the tanks are intact, it won't be an issue, but once the tanks aren't intact anymore, it's, the ship has probably sailed anyway. So I think that's the spot for it. John's kind of feeling the same way.
Thank you.
I don't
On
want
the
it
west
out back.
side,
West.
Yeah, west side,
yeah, you're still gonna have the issue with the current rating, and then me as the engineer looking at this, so that you have a static rating on that fan, so you have a certain horsepower on that fan. We're so far away from the supply duct at that point. Well, I guess we could redo all the supply duct, but you're further away where you're gonna have more turns with the ductwork, and you're not gonna, there's a chance
you
you
understand-
lose performance.
you understand that we're talking right next to the building though, right?
Yep. I mean, you're gonna have to go up and over that mechanical room. You're gonna have more turns that way. Whereas currently we can go run to the building, go up to the roof and connect in. And every turn you do, you're gonna lose. And so currently your supply duct is on the east side of the building where both supplies go down. So I guess I could redo all the fabric duct to tie into the west side to make it better. But the way the ductwork is currently relayed out, you'd have to redo all the ductwork if you want it on the west side.
I sure thought those ducts were on the west side, coming down the west wall on top of the mechanical room.
Yeah.
Nope. No, when they did the project in 2019, they put the supplies on the east side and the returns are on the west.
Oh, I got you. So those are returns.
Yep. So originally there was a supply and return there and a supply and return on the east. And for whatever reason in the 2019 project, they put both supplies on the east and both returns on the west.
Out of the natatorium, we still would need a transformer.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Southeast side of the natatorium, we would still need a transformer in front of that on the southeast side.
Pretty much where we located it is the only place that we would not need one due to the length of the feeder running all the way around the building. Even if it was on the roof as initially planned, you still would have needed one with the 5K rating that it came with. So hopefully the manufacturer can do something in the field. We just don't know that at this point, and Innovent is notorious for not responding for a long time.
Well,
Thoughts, Larry? Glad it's your baby this time.
I'm still not okay with putting out.
I don't like it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like it.
It's gonna be fun, out back or out front.
Out back.
I don't like it either.
I mean, I understand that makes sense for the engineer, but we have to think about what makes sense for the community and the kids that want to be able to sit in that grassy area when they come and set their stuff down to go swimming. You're taking that entire space away from them. And that's probably where the majority of the people sit, am I right?
Sometimes.
Or their stuff or
Their
whatever.
stuff, yeah. Or then if they can't go there, they go in the big area. Oh, right.
And then if the noise, it does end up being a factor. Yeah, I don't know, I
The
just,
benefactor with the noise, if it's out front, it's muffled by the precast walls, it's got to get over the building. And in the wintertime, you're gonna close it up. You're gonna be hiding inside and you hear all the screaming inside the natatorium, and you will never hear those fans churn. That's the beauty or the better side of the south side. Even though we're getting beat up by a transformer, which none of us have control over. But I think the longevity for the community and serviceability for the contractors will be on that south side of the building.
What about straddle like you were talking about? Is that an option? Straddle and tanks?
He doesn't like it because of the distance of duck, isn't it? You're pushing too far away, especially on your discharge. If it's clear at the east side of that natatorium, you're gonna lose so much velocity.
I'm just not okay with it out back.
Well, what was in the way in the front of the building where it's sitting? Was there anything in the way other than we need a transformer?
Yeah,
Just the
in
trans-
the front of the building, there's an 8-inch water main running through there that we're not exactly sure the depth, so that'll have to be rerouted. And then you're running into the heat pump piping too from the geothermal system. So there are some other costs. It's just you'll have to reroute it under the parking lot.
How long of a run of secondary do you have to have for that to satisfy your?
From the transformer to the unit. It varies depending on the impedance of that transformer, so we'll have to spec something. But we were thinking it can basically go where it's like the end of the unit can be on towards the east side. How do I want to say? Towards the east side, basically like with the edge of the tall portion of the building on the east side. So that way the duct can run straight up and go connect into the supplies. So it's that green area, kind of like where the trees are. We'll fit it in there somewhere.
But how long of a run do you need for the electric?
It varies depending on the transformer. But so I don't have that right now. I think it was like 50, 75 feet or something. So it'd be from, depending on where the transformer is located, we would need a certain distance from there to the unit. So I want to say it was less than 100 feet.
Why don't we just take that distance, instead of make it the shortest, just make it a longer distance? So instead of coming straight from your panel to your equipment, just take a non-direct route to get your distance.
You're saying, and to not have a transformer?
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking with the transformer. It was still having an additional 50 to 75 feet. If we don't have a transformer, basically going all the way around the building is the distance that we need to reduce that rating, that amperage.
You can do that without losing your line loss voltage.
Yep.
It's a cheaper way to do it. Get the distance out of your wire just around the building. You don't
That's
buy
on
that.
what, the southeast side?
So you're saying around the backside on the north side?
If you put it
No,
on
I
the
think
south side
John
for
is
city panel.
basically wanting to use his leg wire as a resistor to feed your unit.
Yep.
So he wants to come off the impedance of your transformer, use your distance of wire for the cabling size, and derate it for the amp load for that cable's travel. So as long as you know what your loss is on your cable, you'll know what your impedance is coming into your breaker.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not the electrical engineer, but I don't think there's any way to do it without a transformer except for where we have it located. We've looked into multiple options.
You're saying you don't need a transformer if you put it over the other side.
I guess maybe I'm not following what you're saying.
Isn't that what, I mean, to put it over inside, you don't need a transformer. Correct?
If you put it in
If
the
you put it
inside of the
inside-
fence,
Inside
To
of
put it on
In
the
the
back
back.
side of the building, correct.
Okay. So why don't we just run that route, just bring it all the way to the front and leave it out in front? Use the length of the wire instead of getting a transformer that's gonna
Okay.
take over a year to get.
Okay, so you'd basically run a conduit all the way around the building? I suppose I could have them look into something like that.
Okay.
We're just having a hard time taking it out back.
Yeah, and I understand that. I just thought I thought all along schedule was a priority for this. And we were kind of balancing cost and schedule, so that's kind of what we were going for.
Schedule's important, but it also is something that's going to be there for years and years and years, so
I think the backlash from the city would be pretty,
you can't sacrifice if you don't have to.
If you circumvent or shortcut too many things, it bites you in the end. And Abby's right. I wouldn't want to sit out next to that unit. Bad enough working on them, but to try and enjoy my time with the kids or the grandkids, that'd be tough. In the wintertime, it wouldn't be an issue because we're closed up. That's what's, struggling with it in the green space. I know we'll take a blister, those involved with it out front and a delay for a transformer. But John makes logic on, you're using your wire leg as a resistor to create your voltage drop.
Yep. So we'll look into that, make sure it works, and then we'll just have to, make sure that the contractor knows why we're doing this so they don't shorten it up, because it's going to look, we'll just have to make sure the contractor's doing it correctly. That should work to me. I'll make sure that our electrical doesn't see anything else wrong with that. And I'll get back to Brian on that. And then there will be some additional items though, if we'll have to, move the water main, or we'll have to have that noted, and likely move the heat pump piping, redo that sidewalk. So there will still be some additional items from us.
well, the price of a transformer about 75,000, wasn't it?
No, this one was only about 26,000. But the length of the feeder pretty much it was almost offsetting of that. So I don't think the price is still going to be about the same additional that I told you.
Well, we don't have a 60-week wait now.
So if that's the route we're going, then we would need a motion to table until we have more information. Unless somebody would like to move forward in a different direction.
I like proceeding, John, his suggestion.
So that is a motion to table until we have more
Yes.
information.
A motion.
When's your next meeting?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Brian, I'll get in contact with you and try and get some stuff for then. We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Dan, if you would, on our behalf, would you do your best to find out what the biggest issue is with these transformers? I asked for a circuit breaker mezzanine, and they said, if you're gonna pay us $1,000, then you might not get it in 2 years.
Yeah, the manufacturers right now are holding all the power. Like I said earlier, we do a lot of railroad work. Transformers are long lead time on that. We're doing a school up in North Dakota that's getting a new service, and they told us 12 to 14 months for the new service equipment. So the electrical stuff right now is just, who knows?
Okay.
We have a motion on the table. Do I have a second? Or, okay. So we have Helm with the first and McNeil with the second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Hashing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so number 2. This is exciting, guys. Resolution number, oh my gosh, my eyes, 060523A, resolution to approve drainage easement agreement between David and Amy Frazier, grantor, and the city of Tipton, Iowa, grantee.
Steve, you want to summarize?
Yeah, sure. Basically, it's off of Mulberry Street, up there in front of Mary Caution's, where all the water drains to on the north end of town. That just goes into the open field there, which gets filled up with trash and runoff and turns into a pond. Not a very big one, but kind of a mess. They can't mow it, and there's usually water standing. We went in there last year and looked at it, designed kind of a French drain situation there where we could take that water and put it through some rocks, 3 to 4 foot deep, let it seep away. Had it surveyed, had it kind of engineered. We think that'll work. Getting the easement took about, well, a lot of emails back and forth. So, but we finally got it, and we'll do it in-house, of course. Trench a couple of 40-foot long plastic pipes in and catch the water and put it underground. Hopefully that'll do it. There's no storm sewers in that area. If that is ever developed, there would be probably storm sewers, I would hope. So, but there aren't, was not, it was, yeah, it was brought into the city without storm sewers and, or any kind of curb drainage at all, so.
Whole area has no storms.
Hmm?
That whole area.
No storm in that whole area. All of it, all that area, for the most part, ends up right there at the end of that.
Walmart.
I didn't get that far. That was
Really?
right there. So, and Mary has been pretty patient with us over the last 15 years. We clean it out occasionally, but it needs something more permanent than that. It needs some way to get the water away. So we're gonna try that. Like I said, it's plastic PDS tile and probably some rock, of course, some more clear rock, and some felt on top to keep it from plugging up. And it's one good thing, it's been dry enough now that we can work in there without, good time to do it, so. Any questions
Need a
on that?
motion, yeah. Unless anybody has questions.
I second it.
Okay, McNeil first, Helm the second.
Hembry,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Ashton,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Okay, dash number 3, resolution number 060523B. Resolution authorizing and approving a loan agreement providing for the issuance of $4,020,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, series 2023, and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same.
This is a final loan agreement between the city and Northland Securities, which was the low bidder. At the last meeting, we covered that. It mentions the levy of taxes. That's as a last resort. If we have other sources that we can use to pay for parts of the levy rate or what, the annual debt, I mean, such as TIF, we would use those first.
Okay, so if there's no questions, I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Second.
McNeil and Washington?
Cummins,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Ashton,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Hembry.
Yes.
Dash number 4, resolution number 060523C. Resolution in support of Roche Properties 113 Lemon Street Housing Project and its application to the Workforce Housing Tax Credit Program and affirming the city's financial support for the project.
This is one of the last parts, well, this is the last part for the council to act on. It's a resolution of support The financial support that they ask for is covered by your tax exemption program. That if the 4 units they're talking about, or if or when they happen, the match requirement will all automatically be covered by your tax exemption program. So this is mostly a resolution of support for the project. And a couple meetings ago, you approved the grant writing for the project. The grant is, the application for the tax credits is due to go in on June 9th. So we're working right along with the last steps to get that in.
If there's no questions, I'll take a motion on that one.
Motion.
Second.
Hembry with the first and Helm with the second.
Helm,
Yes.
Bastian,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes. Number 5, discussion and possible action approving authorization of FAA form to send $150,000 to Humboldt Airport.
Yeah, we've had this come up in other years. General aviation airports get an annual stipend of $150,000 that they can bank for a series of years if they have a project at hand. If you don't use a given year's allocation in so much time, lose it. In this case, we can direct it to another Iowa airport that the Iowa DOT has found to need the funds right now. If the council doesn't pass this, it wouldn't be kept in Iowa. It would go back to the federal FAA, and some airport, probably not in Iowa, would get to use it. So at least an Iowa airport gets to use it. But the 150 that we're looking at here, for example, would be to use toward, if the future runway project would ever happen, that would be an eligible expense. The most recent project that we applied for recently for the rehab of the terminal building, this isn't an eligible use for that project. That I didn't want to have the council think, well, why didn't we use this 150 on the terminal building? You can't. It has to be for other designated types of projects.
Motion. Second.
McNeil with the first and Hembry with the second.
Bastian,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Okay, we'll move down to number 6, discussion and possible action concerning allowing food trucks to park in designated area on the green space. Is that you, Linda?
Okay. For some time, I've been working on food trucks, because I think probably most of you have noticed that we're getting food trucks in town, and just trying to be fair about things, fair to our current restaurants, number one. And so I've talked to some other communities that allow food trucks to come in, and their permit process, which that is being worked on right now. And I do have the application done that a vendor would have to fill out. Always get permission, and credentials would always have to be in sight. We would not allow anyone in that didn't have the proper credentials, meaning they would need a food permit from the state of Iowa, and we would have to also see their certificate of insurance. And they would have to go through us. They just couldn't set up shop just because they wanted to. There would be a process where they'd have to get, permission. So the problem has been, where do we put them? And we have businesses that do not like the idea of parking places being taken, to be honest with you, and that becomes a big problem. So I was looking at the green space, and I'm like, why not maybe utilize some of that space in our downtown, where again, they have to have permission, but the green space is grassy. And I do not know how you want me, or if you even like that idea, and perhaps one of you have a better idea. But I thought if we could have them park on the green space in a designated area, if you want gravel on that area, or if you want something else, but then also get a couple of picnic tables in there and a trash can so people can enjoy the downtown and maybe stay downtown just a little bit. Now, again, if you have a better idea, I would love to hear it, Jason.
And we talked a little bit about it earlier. And the gravel is a good idea. I just don't like the fact that it's gonna be messy. There's gonna be gravel.
Yes,
You gotta
yes.
try to mow around it.
Yes,
Not gonna be good.
and throwing rocks is another thing.
I guess I kind of came up with a thing. What would a 30 by 45 concrete pad? That way the picnic tables could be attached. They're not gonna wander off. And then the other thing I thought about too is, what if you assess a fee of $50 to use that pad? I mean, they're plugging into our electricity.
Yeah, the permit that and I can do it however you want, because we're not done with things yet. The permit for them to be in Tipton for a year is $150.
Okay.
For a year.
For a year, yes. I can increase that. I was going off what other communities were doing with their food trucks. Because right now, they're not paying a fee to come, and that is not fair. That is not fair to our local restaurants.
Right.
There's no property taxes being paid.
And the other thing, I guess, to me was, who's gonna be the judge on how soft the grass is, whether they can pull it or not.
Right, because if we have,
I like your idea.
Or
I do
whether it starts pouring
yes.
when they're there, they're not gonna leave.
I would
You're gonna
be
tear that place up.
very happy to come back to you and have prices on what things are gonna cost, and then have you decide. But and food trucks, honestly, they're very popular. People like them. I've been contacted by some that it would be very good, but it's holding me up because I don't know where to put them. And, we can't put them on Highway 38. That's gonna be a big no. And then, one more time, our owners, our retail owners they get upset if we're taking parking places.
Rightfully so.
And yeah, absolutely. And the objective is not to upset, the objective is to figure out how we can get this done right.
I like it.
I like his idea,
like
and
the
he
idea.
made a little canopy over top,
And if you had
and utilize that spot.
had a place set up like that, then people know where to go. They know where to look for it. They don't have to wonder, where's the truck gonna be this week? Or the truck person doesn't have to wonder, where am I gonna be this week?
And then I can also post things like that on Facebook, because I'll be keeping track of that. So, and people will know where to go.
How many people park in front of the old county jail in the evenings?
We've had a vendor go there. She's the only one that's done that. It's not ideal there. She doesn't like it. I know.
Alley for it to be ideal.
Well, I know, I understand that, but,
50 feet.
I'm just trying to find a location that's always gonna work.
Something you can rely on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, then I will come back with numbers in 2 weeks.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So we don't really need to do any action on that one. So we'll move down to number 7, discussion and possible action recommending approval of Hinson Consulting's proposal to update the city's compensation plan.
Hi, council. I'm not here speaking on my behalf. I'm representing the group. I think you all know that. If you don't mind, I'd just like to read the synopsis again. 3 years ago, City Council approved a contract with Hinson Consulting to conduct a wage study. That study helped restructure the city's compensation scales and policy. City Council then approved the Hinson recommendations at the December 7th, 2020 council meeting. That later went into effect July 1st, 2021. Most would agree a lot has happened since adopting the Henson scales, including a worldwide pandemic, massive supply chain issues, an ongoing employment crisis, to name a few. All these factors have contributed to significant changes in surrounding job markets. While labor force has been short, wages have driven up. While Tipton has continued to have wage increases each budget year based on the current compensation structure, it is felt that Tipton has not kept up with surrounding markets, cost of living, and inflation. Consequently, the city of Tipton continues to experience loss of staff, long-term unfilled vacancies, and ever-looming temptation for staff to leave for better opportunities. Our combined goal together should be to correct these situations, to stop losing staff, and to keep who we have left, and to fill our vacancies, both long and short term. The Tipton city staff is requesting to have an update to the Henson study. The goal would not be to rewrite the book, so to speak. We don't want to do that because he did a good job. The Henson study was a good improvement. But we simply want to re-examine post-pandemic wages and make needed adjustments. Like last time, let's take a good look at comparable towns and municipalities. But should we stop there? To date, we have lost staff to SIPCO, Alliant Energy, REC, City of Mount Vernon, City of Iowa City, Cedar County, to name a few. Okay. Others that are always tempting are City of Coralville, University of Iowa, City of North Liberty, Iowa DOT, Muscatine Power and Water. Would we be negligent to avoid looking at these entities? We think so. Now, right away, that probably trips something. They say, oh, no, we can't go there. I get it. I think we all get it. I think most of our staff would agree we may not be able to match these larger entities, but any attempt to close that gap, I think, would speak volumes. Even if we only close that gap partly, it could greatly enhance stability, morale, and retention. It could also fill some of those positions that have been empty for 10 months. We have already reached out to Brent Henson, who performed our last wage study. Brent is willing to provide his services again and has provided a quote in the amount of $3,500. Please keep in mind that the current proposal may not include some of these entities that I listed, like SIPCO, Alliant Energy, REC, Muscatine Water and Power. His proposal does not include that. He does have a caveat at the end of the deal there that is either $80 or $90 an hour. He'll add whatever we want to that study. I think it's time. I think the Henson study was good. I think we all agreed on it. We all liked it. So much happened then, right out the door. So much happened with the pandemic. I can tell you the starting comp here has given up about 30%. Not to the outer limits, right down the street at the Law Center. Okay. A starting public works employee, a road maintenance worker, has given up 25 to 27%. Not to go away, but to go right down the street, right down the secondary roads. These gaps are too big. A lineman apprentice here recently almost doubled his money when he went to SIPCO. That's too much. He got paid more as an apprentice than we paid our superintendent. We can't have that. So, if anybody wants to add anything, they're welcome, but here's kind of how I look at it. Your staff, you got some desirable staff here. If we got them too low, they're like low hanging fruit on a tree. People are gonna come and they're gonna pick that. You raise them up a little bit, won't be so easy to get them. That's where I think they're at. That's where I think we're at. Go ahead. I'm not disagreeing, you guys don't need, or staff don't need a pay raise, but I also know a cop here in town that has been approached by the county that says he will not leave because his health benefits are so much better for the city versus the county. And like, again, I'm not saying you guys don't need that, don't need a raise, but I'm saying we kind of got to compare health insurance. I guess I pay my own, so I envy anybody that doesn't have to pay what I do in a month because it's astronomical. But I guess that's one of the things I take in consideration too, is I know everybody's gonna draw IFRS the same. I guess health insurance is kind of what I'm comparing to. And I'm in favor of you guys getting a raise. I'm fine with that. I think we need to wait till next budget, just so we don't mess with that budget. I'm all in favor of you guys getting that. Everybody deserves what they get. I'm just being honest. No, I hear you, Jason, and I appreciate that, and I can tell you the staff here is very much appreciates their benefits. Yeah. And they are absolutely a value. They are.
This would be the next budget too.
You're
Yeah.
you're asking for just to have the study done, correct?
Yeah, no raises. This is just this is just a study
That's what I was.
and
that's
see
what I was
where we're
looking
at initially.
Yeah,
I
raises is another argument.
How about instead of a study, why don't you all just come with the numbers? You already know what they are, right?
got pretty good
So
idea.
save the damn money,
It doesn't.
bring the
It
numbers.
doesn't have to be this way. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right. It doesn't.
You
have to
already
be
know
this
what the
way.
numbers are.
Mhm.
Just bring us the numbers.
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to.
I'm tired of throwing money down on all these Henson studies and wage studies, and nobody follows them anyway. You come every 2 years, every year and a half, this, that, and the other. So just bring us the numbers.
Hey, Brian.
Have it for the next budget.
Tim, one of the most recent numbers that just came about is the deputies, the starting deputy gets about 71,000 a year for starting.
Yeah.
Out of county, and our starting is about 50,000. And again, starting, we do have insurance, but with the recent changes that started May 1st, there's no longer a copay with certain things, and you have to pay the whole amount until you meet a deductible.
You also got to look at the private sector versus the government sector.
Right.
Only in government do they increase everything 25, 30%.
This is government.
Private sector,
This is Cedar County.
you're lucky to get a cost of inflation increase.
So anyway, what I'm saying is you asked for numbers.
I want numbers
Those are numbers.
and bring it before the council for the next budget.
So just, that's where we're coming from. is-
Quit doing these studies that never pan out anyway.
I kind of agree with you to a point, Tim, because to completely redo the whole study would be 20 grand, and I think it'd be foolish. I think we have a good baseline already that doesn't need change. That's what I meant by not rewrite the book. $3,500 would be
But if you know
would
it's
look at,
$4 in this department at this level, or
yeah,
just throw the numbers in there.
we look at
We know what they
comparables.
are.
We look at this group of comparables, but then we lose our people to this group. So I think, if we're not.
But all of government has done that for the last 2 years. Oh, this city decided to give these big increases. Oh, now we're, you know what I mean? It's a never ending cycle.
I think it's across the board. I get it. But I feel like it costs us more to lose good people than it does to keep them. I really do.
People come and go. People will move to go find a better job. People move state to state. You know what I
And
mean?
we'll always have that.
Yes,
But how many empty seats do we have right now? How
that's
fast
the
are
way
they
it
filling?
is.
How fast are they filling?
They're hungry enough.
10
People
months.
show up.
10 months, empty, 3 in one department.
Tim, I don't have any comparables in the private sector. I'm talking city government,
Yeah,
county
I
government.
know.
I have no
Well, your
private sector.
police departments are
And
like,
it's across the state and they don't fill up. Lincoln County has 12 openings right now. They they did a testing and they went to get their top 10 list. They only have 8 people on that list. And departments are in perpetual hiring because they can't fill the need.
Well,
And they're
that too,
sitting
Lisa,
open.
nobody wants to be police officers, not like back in the day. You know
No,
what I mean?
but what I'm saying is,
Kind of
I'd like to keep the ones
losing
I have.
occupation, so.
I'd like to keep the ones I have. So.
I think it's difficult to say that we want somebody to just come with the numbers, because then what we're asking you to do is your homework of what everybody's making in all the different areas that are comparable to us, to our community. And then, not that anybody's gonna come with false numbers, but then the council has to say, oh, okay, yep, this is what Lisa's telling me. I believe what Lisa's telling me. This is what Brian's telling me. You know, do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
So that's the
And-
difficulty of saying, yeah, just come to us with numbers. So that's what the benefit of having an outside source is to that.
And his proposal to some degree does require homework on our part.
Which is,
He wants us to find the proper HR departments and a phone number for him
Which is
and
good.
actually deliver input to him. So to some degree, we
to
are
keep his,
doing this. One thing you wouldn't get from us necessarily that you would get from him is you're gonna have scales. Usable scales that are gonna get adopted back into the Hinson thing. But Jason, I'm actually in the perfect position, if you think about it, to compare city benefits to county benefits.
Yep.
And we look
I
at
get
that
it.
very closely year after year. We have stuff with the city. There is a little difference. It's not a lot. There's some.
I get it. I get it.
so correct me if I'm wrong, Hinson's, the proposal is for him to tweak what's already there, correct?
To study the wages portion, basically.
For the next budget.
The next, yeah.
That is not defined in this. I get it about the budget, I get that. This could be a 5-year thing. I mean, this is open. This doesn't say this will be adopted, nothing like that. So we'll work around
Well,
budget.
it
if we
wouldn't
need to.
be sooner than the next budget.
No.
You know, when you look at the example that Phoebe mentioned, the current plan was adopted in December 2020, and it wasn't effective until July 1 of 21.
Right. There's
Which
an
just so
example.
happened to be right after the pandemic.
Yeah, you know, and on the other hand, I think we could probably find $3,500 somewhere. We maybe couldn't necessarily find the revenue to cover the wages yet, so to speak, until the next budget. But even that, you know, some of these things are what amendments are for. If it meant saving a couple staff, it might be worth looking into an amendment.
Mhm. It is difficult because, you know, like mentioning the short staff, then, you know, you come to us and we might have, or a community person comes to us and says, why is this not done yet? Or why did it take so long to do that? Well, because we don't have enough people to do it.
In like Brian says, my former town, there was a 2 or 3 person committee of council members. And they sat down and they hashed out the raises. They studied, did whatever, come back with a proposal. This kind of proposal protects you people from having to do that kind of thing.
You want me to do that? I'm charging more than
That's
$3,500.
it.
I'm just
It's a
saying.
difficult thing. It absolutely, it's a difficult thing. This takes that off of you. There might be other ways, Tim. I don't disagree. There might be other ways. I'm willing to help. So I'm sure others will too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Phoebe's right. I mean, if this proposal is accepted, it isn't just this guy working alone. It's us putting together a lot of the background that he's trying to pull together, because, you know, we have to try to set the goals of what we're trying to be comparable to. We've got enterprise funds that aren't necessarily the same as general fund departments that we're having problems with. You know, do we break those out and treat those separately? Maybe we should.
I think we should. The ones that make the money. I mean, I hate to say it, but you make money for the city, the gas department does, electric department. I'm not saying anything that remotely close that nobody needs a raise. I'm just saying the ones with the more risk, I think should have more increase, I guess.
Well, and the other part of that is the ones that are hard to fill.
Right, exactly. And from my understanding, we're gonna have another spot that's gonna be
Hard.
hard to fill.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to buck up and,
Today, everything's hard to fill.
yes, and that's exactly what they're trying to say is, and I get it. When you get somebody that's good at their job, you wanna keep them.
Well, but when they have specialty licenses, special background
Yes.
that just anybody doesn't have, that's a factor too.
Yeah, but personally, I don't see Henson providing that for us. Phoebe says himself, he's gonna do legwork. Electric superintendent's gonna do the legwork. Public Works is gonna do the legwork. How do you know? If the staff is looking, they know what other people are paying. It's that simple. Certification comes with what it takes. And last I knew, it's 95 ahead for annual renewal on the certificate of competency. That's a piece of the puzzle. Linemen are expensive as all get out when you fight with the private sector. I hear about that all the time. The crew in Public Works. Don't compare them to Public Works. If they actually do main work, compare them to contractors. And that's what we need to look at in that aspect. Because each field is no different than what I was used to in the service. If you have a specialty field and you're performing those functions, you get rewarded for those functions. And if you're not, you need to evaluate why we have staff that can't fill the functions of our community. And that's how I'm looking at it. But I don't see Henson bringing that if he's just basically an organizer for the legwork that the staff is going to do. I know, Brian Brennan, you flat out know what you can make elsewhere with the grade 2s. I know what the grade 4s pull. If you're not pushing 105, you're not making enough.
It's the grade 3, 105 to 125.
So those, then you got to take it into perspective to the community of 3,200. When I worked for the O&M firm, we did wage evaluations all the time. And that's how they were able to fight. They paid people that do hard work, nothing. And then they paid management to get the job done. And that's how they live and die, which is the same thing we as government need to figure out and get our ducks in a row to where all our staff that are capable, we reward them accordingly. And that's exactly what I think Jason's telling us. We will support high quality staff.
I fully agree. To get the right money, we gotta run it right. We gotta get things efficient. That's on us. I agree with that. I think you do wanna retain the staff that's valuable. But we talked about certifications and we talked about risk and certificate. But even if you're a road maintenance worker and your only certificate is a CDL, the very same road maintenance worker right down the street, 4 blocks, is on track to be $8 to $10 an hour more. And we have guys that we know are desirable to that entity, and they've already tried. And so let's not just focus on certificates. And we have valuable staff in all the ranks. in Tipton. And one thing that everybody I've ever talked to that ever left here had one thing in common, and I've talked to quite a few. Really didn't want to go. Really preferred to stay, just couldn't because of the difference. So to some degree, you're always going to have a little bit of that. There's always opportunities for somebody, but in recent times, the opportunities are so plentiful that I think we got to just get a little more proactive, that's all.
But are you saying it's beyond the staff's capability?
I
All
think,
city staff?
I think staff can contribute. I think this is a good baseline, but I think staff could contribute, joint effort. I think it makes sense.
Because even if you put Henson on the top of it, you're still making the staff do the work.
No, he's got quite a bit of work involved in there, I think. He's got some hours and some efforts, but he'll tell you, not everything is an open door to him when it comes to wages.
Oh, no.
You might be able to tap into Iowa League of Cities and see a lot of the easy stuff. But some of the other stuff, that might be why he needs our help. It might not be readily accessible to him. You call private company ABC and talk to their HR and say, hey, what's your wages? They say, none of your business. So you got a little bit of that too, and he knows it. But we all got friends. So you get your numbers how you get them.
And that's kind of my point, you know, we all know what's out there. You know, it's whether or not we're willing as a community to put it together and be, as a municipality as a whole, discuss it with our staff. Because I'll be quite frank, collective bargaining or contract to all employees is my preface. And all those employees meet requirements for position filled. And you feed that through succession training and bring them up. You start them out and you pay them effectively and you teach them to feel. Because the longer they're here, just like yourself, you know where the valve sits in the corner of that storm drain, right outside of my house, that you found that Drager did it. I'll hold it to you because you found it and it's there.
I think it's important to have somebody
Neutral?
make sense of the data. I do. I think it's important to have somebody make sense of that data. You can come to me with what everybody's making and where they're making it, but then I have to interpret it. I think it just makes sense to have someone.
You got a third party there that isn't holding me responsible to you and you responsible to me. Yeah, it takes some of that off.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
My recommendation is to go forward with Henson. Yeah.
Might I comment? I think doing the Henson thing would also sound better to the public because they'll know it's not the council, it's not the staff coming up with these numbers.
Very good point.
And I think this public would buy into it better, especially if we do a decent job of selling the public on the difficulty in filling positions, the competition that, you know, just in general, the competition and the fact that we're losing people to other places, kind of soften them up before we get the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, got to pay for what you got to have.
I think that's a good point, Ray. Thank you.
We find $3,500.
$3,500. Yeah.
I'll second it.
Money well spent. Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Cummins with the first and Helen with the second.
Hembry,
No.
Cummins,
Yes.
Helm,
Yeah.
Hoshin,
As long as we're on the understanding that'll be next budget, yes.
Yes.
McNeil.
No.
3-2. Motion passes. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay here until reports, if that's okay.
No, you're done.
I know you want to-
Somebody lock the door, send him out and lock the door. Okay. So let's go down to reports. I've got nothing. I don't even know if I constitute the mayor, to be honest, so. Not today, anyway. Council reports. Committee reports. City manager report. Department heads?
Yeah. I don't know if you did or didn't get an update for when we had Russ Fine from Water Tower Cleaning Code here. We recently cleaned out the detention well underneath the water plant. Did y'all see that? I don't know if we forwarded that or not. Not sure. Well, anyway, for $2,500, he found in that 40,000 gallon reservoir underneath the water plant. It's designed for the rust to slough out and it settles to the bottom, and occasionally you got to clean that out. Anyway, while he was here, we talked about the water tower, which he recently cleaned interior and exterior, as well as the iron filters and the media within. And Ron, you probably know what year the tower was built, the plant. They were a little bit separate from each other, around 03, 04. So we're coming up on 20 years. Talking about the coating on the tank, okay? Looking pretty good for the most part for 20 years old. It was obviously a good quality product. If you stay, it's a little more beat up by UV rays up there. Definitely needs something up there sooner than later. What Russ is recommending is for us to start thinking about, whether it's CIP, whatever, let's start sewing some money away. Within at least 5 years, let's plan on this. Let's coat that tower inside and out. And let's replace the filter media 100% at the same time, service them meters. He said budget about $150,000. I think there's companies out there that'll probably bid as high as $500,000-600,000. I think maybe we could sew away a little more. But here's what I've learned in trainings in getting water CEUs. I've sat in trainings about coating towers. If you wait too long, it gets way more expensive. You start to get rust, you start to lose coating. Now you gotta get the sandblaster out. And if you gotta sandblast your whole tank, and if you gotta put up a curtain, it could be 3-4 times the money. So that's all I'm here to say is let's get together with Melissa and let's start planning in our CIP for doing this water tower, interior, exterior, and filter media. All of it at the same time, 5 years from now.
Because isn't filter media only 10-year life cycle?
Just put change can.
You gotta have the money, Ron, it's not in the budget.
Change can.
Little plane going line?
Just saying.
Still getting about 80-85% renewable, still doing pretty good on the iron. But yeah, it's due. He said too, it's 20 years, it's due for sure. So, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else? I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Caution held.
Cummins,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Hoshin,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Hembry.
Yes.